Welcome to a spark of awareness. We live in a time where we are constantly being stimulated, prompted by systems, by algorithms, by AI. But when we outsource our answers, we slowly give away our authority, our inner voice, our self-mastery. Conscious leadership has no shortcut, no hack, and it can only begin from within. It is the courage to stop escaping and to sit with what's alive and present inside, even when it's very uncomfortable. But that's where growth is. And this podcast is a space for that. This podcast is an evolution. And every week, I will share a 15-minute human prompt, live, non-performative. It is a moment of reflection drawn from my work in conscious leadership, from the journeys of the leaders I coach and accompany, and from what is moving in a collective film of what is humanity and leadership. I am Sophie, a conscious leadership coach and guide of transformation. I support leaders who are crossing the threshold right now from the old system of leadership, a legacy, into a deeper, more conscious way of being. If the traditional model no longer resonates, know that you are not alone, and that is your weekly practice. This is your time with your inner world. This is your weekly spark of awareness. Welcome. So welcome to this weekly episode, and we're going to address the fourth self-sabotage pattern for leaders, which is having your cup empty. What I mean by that, having your cup empty, is your battery is emptied, depleted, you don't have any energy to lead. That's a pattern I've seen in many leaders: exhausted, activated in their nervous system and not really in their center or with clarity. They're just surviving more than they're actually strategizing and having a broader vision about the business and the future. So how do you know if you are in that situation? Because again, most of the situations, people are not aware that their cup is empty because the norm for them is to run in survival mode. If at the end of the day you feel very depleted after a work day, you have no energy to be with anyone else but maybe yourself. Of course, if you have a family, you have responsibilities. No energy to think about the day, reflect, recharge, even to go to the gym, do some activities. So you feel emptied at the end of the day. That's the most obvious sign. The other signs are more subtle. You barely take breaks to go to the bathroom, to eat, to take the time to start the day, to have your energy, your clarity in order. Another signal, your sleep quality is not great. So you don't sleep that much or you don't sleep that well. And even when you sleep, you don't feel restored. That's another sign that your cup is emptier than it recharges every day. When you have free time, weekends, for example, holidays, you use all that time to just do nothing because you have nothing left in you to see friends, be active, do things that require energy, aliveness, because you just don't have that. So like I said, most of the time you're in survival mode and you're running in autopilot, functioning, but not really alive, not dead, but not alive. So those are the signs, and there are different degrees of that, having their cup empty. Why is it important? Well, you, as the founder, leader of your team, you are the fuel, the growth engine of your unit, your team, or your business. So when your engine is low, all the system around you is going to be slow. That matters. Sometimes I've heard founders coming to me and saying how their team is not very energized, not bringing a lot of energy. And I tell them fairly, and what's your level of energy? How can you expect from your team to have energy lifted when you as the leader you are depleted? So the way we feel is very likely the way our system will feel, therefore the team and all the partners and everyone around you. So you at the center of your business, and the level of energy you have is strategic. I want to give an example on how I was working in an executive role, and I was so depleted after a day because I had many one-on-one conversations, many talks as my role as a manager, and back to back. And I realized I had very little left in me to actually build a vision and be strategic. So I turned everything around to look at where is my input the most needed and where do I create most impact. And I started from there to prioritize those activities that first of all create high impact, and then deprioritize all the activities professionally and sometimes personally that would not create a high impact or that would really deplete me. So for example, this podcast, I think that's the best example. I have run it for 4 years, and when I started it, I was working with a full-time job, and I was learning and growing in my leadership and learning a lot from other leaders doing different things, different businesses. And so I was learning a lot from those leaders that I was interviewing on the podcast, and at the same time creating a lot of value for the gaming industry to also listen to those interviews. And I have enjoyed it very much for 3 years. When I went full time on my business, the relevance of going on finding people who wanted to go on the podcast, because, after interviewing over 160 different leaders, I spoke to the ones I wanted the most at that time. And the energy was not that alive for me to continue to schedule the meetings with gaming leaders, interview them, then publish. The energy was just not there. So I had to sit with it last year. I sit with it and ask myself, what is it that has a business goal, which is continuing to transmit what I'm learning with the community, the insights, the reflection, but at the cost of myself, that I can continue to run the business sustainably. And that's when I thought of introducing this new format, which is basically encapsulating all the insights I have from the leaders I work with, I coach, which is even better. But instead of focusing 1 hour on one person, I encapsulate all the learning in 15 minutes, which creates even more value as well for the audience. And then it's much more manageable for me as I come on the podcast, record everything that is alive, and it takes me maybe 1-2 hours per week instead of in the past, like that background of scheduling and so on. And so I shifted it. And now the podcast is not a place that I dread and think it's going to drain my energy and empty me, but it's a place that also regenerates me, where I can also share those reflections and also have an indirect communication with my audience. So that's an example of how you can turn around what costs your energy. But more concretely, I have a coaching exercise that I do with when you find yourself depleted of energy. It's very simple. It's an audit of energy. So you want to see where you are with your energy in and out. So in one column, you put everything that brings you energy during the day. Everything, not just the professional, but also the personal. And then as you list everything that gives you energy, on the second column, you list everything that drains your energy, all the activities. And maybe you can start to theme them. Maybe there are some that are calls, some are marketing work, some are admin, some are meeting a friend, doing this or that activity. So you really analyze your whole schedule and your time management to see how is the energy coming in and how is the energy coming out. Understand what kind of activity drains you and what kind of activity that really energizes you. And imagine you have a battery every day, and that battery, this is the energy you need to have a day going. So if you have the day full of activities that drain you, It's very difficult to do your work at your best, fullest potential. So it helps to get just awareness. Do you have a cup empty most of the time, or like half full, or what do you need to fill it? And then for the activities that drain you, if you are, of course, the business owner, you can change that quickly. If you are a leader, then you can arrange your priorities, your schedule. But ask yourself, for the activities that drain you, how can you automate them? How can you delegate or outsource them? So that will free some time for you to do the activities that first energizes you but create the highest impact. Most of the time is strategic work or work in presence. For me, for example, it's my in-presence coaching or the live masterclass I run, the public presence. But the rest of the time, I would use it to really recharge energy. So that's an exercise you can already do. And another book I want to recommend that has been very helpful to establish better boundaries and managing your time and energy is Atomic Habits. It's how to build habits that persist, first of all, but are working for you. So an example here, I applied a lot of Atomic Habits practices in my daily routine. So I get to do the things that I know will serve me, like energize me, and I don't have to think about it. I just do it and avoid or delegate and give the things that deplete me. But for example, I need to be physically active every day. I know it makes the movement makes me energized. So it's very easy when working remote to sit at home and not move at all. So it's about nudges and creating a system. So in the environment, do I have my yoga mat out on my way? So I know it's a nudge to remind me, oh, okay, today I'm going to stretch. For example, you can create nudges, reminder in your system, your calendar, even reminders for you to make sure that you do the activities that restore your energy to balance with all the activities that you can't skip but drain you. So think really of it as a balance of battery with energy in and out, and how can you make your schedule, your routine work for you and your habits. How do you feel your cup empty at the moment? Is it a state that is temporary or permanent? And how can you optimize that? But ideally, most of the days, you start with a full cup, so restored already, and you end the day, it's possible, with a full cup. And what needs to change in your routine, in your activities, in your delegation system, that you get to do the things that leave you in your zone of genius, that have the highest impact for the business, for your team, and that you have transferred all the tasks that take your energy. Today, I have outsourced, delegated all the things that I should not be doing at the level of my business and delegated to my team. So that's a thing you can think about. I don't have to cook, every day, or I don't have to clean all the time my apartment. This is a service I'm happy to pay for, so it can free my time to create value. So think really on all the area of life. All right. I'll leave you with a reflection for this week. I'd love to hear your stories about it and your wins. And as usual, let's close that practice with a small grounding meditation. So I invite you to close your eyes. And inhale through the nose. And exhaling through the mouth. And just enjoy a moment of silence. Feeling your breath, feeling your body. And exhale through the mouth. And one last time, let's take a deep breath together. And hold it for a few seconds. And exhale through the mouth. And just this simple exercise, maybe you feel already energy back into your body. That's my invitation to bring those kind of small practices, but very powerful, in your routine, in your day, so you keep your cup full. I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in into this weekly reflection, a weekly spark of awareness. After this episode, I invite you to take a few moments with yourself, even just 15 minutes, to sit with what resonated, to breathe, and to notice what is shifting inside. This is a practice, a discipline of presence, truth, and self-connection. If this work speaks to you, I accompany leaders in one-on-one journeys and group experiences of transformation, supporting them as they cross the threshold into a truer and freer way of leading and living. If you feel called to explore this path, I would love to hear your story, and let's connect. Sending you love and courage, and have a great week ahead. This is my spark of awareness.